Very excited to be here and to be able to share more about Game On, which is one of the projects we'll be working on for a long time, right, Mike? And I've been working on this for pretty much a year, working a lot with the team. So very happy to be here and be able to share with you. Why am I here? So I'm the tech evangelist for Amazon here in Europe. And also because, and again, my name is Mario, and my dad's name is Luigi. So actually, a lot of people say that I was bound to work with games and game developers. But what I do is this: I engage with the community, and in particular with the game developer community. But let's jump on it. We're all here in this room and listening to this presentation because we understood one thing, that competition is at the core of the gameplay. This is not just for video games. Think about football, for example. If you are passionate about the football team, if you're invested, if your team is playing, you want your team to win. You are psychologically invested in what's going on. Even more if you are playing football yourself, you want to win. Winning is good, losing is bad. That is the core, the essence of competition. And competition itself cultivates engagement. If you are competing with someone else or against a high score, against a leaderboard, you want to play, you play more. You just spend more time into a specific game. And at the end, as game developers or as game marketers, what do we want? We want passionate players. We want the prototype of the power user, a player that spends time and possibly, of course, money into our games. But how do we get these people? How do we foster more of these power users, of these passionate players? So of course, esports is huge now, is growing very fast, and a lot of the esports games are based on skills, right? You start from the same rules, on the same ground rules, and you try to compete each other and win against each other. But the interesting bit is that we actually saw the same behavior, not just on this type of games, even in casual games. As you can imagine, with Amazon, we do a lot of events like here at Casual Connect. And at Amazon, we also have our own devices, in particular the Fire tablets and Fire TV, which we showcase on the ground quite often. And one thing that we noticed at some of these events is that players, like gamers, started competing with each other at our booth, playing games that weren't meant to be competitive games, like match 3 games or things like Crossy Road, for example. So we started looking at that and we started thinking, okay, maybe there is something there that we need to look at more carefully. So we actually street tested this. We at a few events in which we brought casual games and mobile games that were not meant for competitive games and added competition to it. And we saw the players were engaging a lot with it. And we actually scaled this up to a much bigger event, which we called Champions of Fire. And as you can see, there are people playing Pac-Man, playing Free Ninja, playing games that, you know, those are not what you would probably define a standard classic esports game. But there is an esports component to it. There is, when you put competition in the mix, there is the magic happens. So at the end, our Champions of Fire invitation was a test for something bigger. We understood that competitive gaming was something we wanted to bring not just to the big real-time esports game developers, but possibly to every game developer. And that's why we built Game On. So what is Game On? Game On is a set of flexible API that basically allows any game developer to easily build cross-platform competition into their game and award in-game digital events, in-game digital awards, but also physical prizes which are directly fulfilled by Amazon. And I'm going to deep dive into this in a second. So Game On is basically built on 3 pillars, we can say. First one is scale. Game On as an API is built on top of AWS, so it scales as much as you want. You don't really have to care about the setup of the leaderboards of the competitions, because we take care of that. And of scaling it up as well. Allows organic acquisition. So of course, as a game developer, it's your responsibility to bring gamers in, but once you're in, the Game On build competitions will allow you to retain more players and to actually boost their engagement with your game. And of course, engagement itself. Once a player is in and is acquired, Game On will allow you to run very interesting competitions that you will see in a second that can be even tailored for that specific player. So at the end of the day, Game On is thought to bring the joy of competitive game on everyone and on every platform. And I want to stress every platform here because being part of the App Store team at Amazon, a lot of people come to us and say, oh, you always speak just about mobile. What about PC? What about console? What about VR? What about voice games? And Game On for our team is one of the first leaps into cross-platform services. So we're really, really excited about this. So Game On, what is Game On? First of all, is a cross-platform API. Allows you to add competitive game on any platform, any device, through any engine or anywhere. Basically, if your system or your platform is can make an HTTPS call, you can use Game On. We don't provide UI, we don't provide any of that because we feel that the developers should merge the look and feel of the tournaments into their game. We just provide the backend infrastructure for you to run scalable competitive gaming. And again, a lot of developers were asking about an SDK, and Amazon does provide for a lot of different services, a lot of SDK, but we felt that providing as a RESTful API gave Game On much more flexibility and scalability. That being said, I've already been working with developers, working with Unity, with other game engines, and it's very, very easy to integrate Game On, even if there is no SDK for it. And again, the cool thing is that if you integrate Game On, this immediately works cross-platform. So, for example, Survival Arena by Game Insight actually integrated Game On for their tournament infrastructure, and they run tournament between PC and mobile, for example. And you have players on both platforms competing with each other. So what type of competitions can you build? Of course, you can build the classic leaderboards, but also you can build leagues. You can rank players by any metric. You define what the victory conditions are, for example. As you will see in a second, you can also define how these tournaments are displayed to the users. What are the conditions to display a specific tournament to a specific player? You can set a number of attempts. Say, for example, to beat this tournament, you only have 10 attempts, 100 attempts, or only one attempt. You can invite the winners to multiple rounds, so you actually build competitions on top of different competitions. You can even automatically schedule recurring tournaments, which is, if you are familiar with running live ops for games, building recurring tournaments is something that's not exactly trivial. And for example, Gear Club integrated Game On, and they were very happy about the flexibility that the API allowed them. So just to give you an idea of how flexible Game On is and how easy it is to set up tailored competition. So for example, you can define entry requirements for the tournaments. You can define a tournament by location. So you could literally say, for example, let's build a tournament just for Casual Connect, limited to today and to a GPS radius of 100 meters around the Queen Elizabeth Center. Or you can also use custom criteria. So you can say, for example, give access to this tournament only if this player has this weapon, or if this player has completed the game, or if his skill level is between 0 and 100. So let's make an example. Let's say that you want to build a tournament just for the greater Seattle area. Your API call will look pretty much like this. You define the name and the description, which could be available to your players. You define that the type of entry requirement is a GPS and is GPS coordinate. You just provide the basic coordinate and set the radius. And that's it. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, let's say 9, 10 lines of code. You just push that and you have built a tournament which is geolocalized. The other one is set up a custom value. So for example, let's say that in your game you have a condition that makes a player be a VIP. Maybe this is a power user. Maybe this is someone who has spent more than $1,000 in your game, for example, could be. And what if you want to build a tournament just for these high-ranking players? If you have a value in your game which is status VIP, you can just encode it this way through a key value system. And then you build a tournament like that. Or what if the player is actually a beginner? If the skill level is between what we define 0 and 10, there is also a range system that allows you to allow players based on their skill level. And this is, again, entirely customizable. We left it as agnostic as possible in a way that it could be flexible for each game developers to add their own conditions. For example, when we launched Game On, it was a GDC just a month ago, pretty much, a few weeks ago. And Power Rangers Legacy Wars, they actually made a tournament that was limited geographically just to the GDC area. And we had physical prizes that could be won as well. Another very cool thing is that Game On doesn't limit just the developer to build the tournaments. Also allows players to build tournaments. So imagine a situation in which you're with your friends and you're playing a racing game, for example, and you want to build a tournament just for the 4 of you. You can do that if, of course, the developer has enabled this feature in their game. You can build user-generated competitions. And don't think about this just as a between friends social experience. We build this with streamers in mind. What if a game streamer wants to build a competition for its followers? They can do this now using Game On. And we already have a few of them that did user-generated competitions with games like Gear Club, for example. And another important part of competitions, as we know, is, of course, what are you winning? You can win real-world prizes or digital prizes. Let me say immediately that right now, real-world prizes fulfilled by Amazon are only available for US customers. But digital in-game prizes are available for everyone. So if you're interested in knowing more about the physical pricing, right now is a white glove experience, but feel free to reach out to me or to one of my colleagues and we can discuss. But for the digital prices, that is available to everyone immediately. And we saw earlier today in a lot of other presentations that live ops is an important part of running competitions, running esports in particular. And if you're building your own leaderboards or a league system, managing the tournaments could be painful. So we actually thought about that. We thought, how can we make the setup and the management of the tournaments easy? So we built a new console that is completely separate from the standard Amazon developer console. It's a dedicated Game On console that allows you to easily build tournaments and specify which conditions you want for each tournament. So let's take the example before. Let's say that we want to build a tournament just for the Seattle area and just for the VIP players. We will just set up the entry requirements, GPS location, greater Seattle area, and a custom parameter that says player is VIP. It's literally 2 drop-down menus. You can build these conditions directly using the API, and it's literally as easy as sending a few lines of text like the one that I showed you before. You can build your own custom entry requirements and then easily managing this from a dashboard, meaning that you don't need a developer to do this. If you have a team member that you deputize to be managing the live operations of your tournament, they can easily build these events themselves using the game on console. And what if you want to build a recurring tournament? Let's say that we want our tournament only to happen over the weekends, every week for 10 weeks in a row. Through the UI, you can do this very, very easily. You just set up competition recurrence, select which days, if it repeats every day, month, or year, and if it ends on a specific day or after a specific number of occurrences. And at the end, you will have, along with the recurrence and the entry requirements, all the other fields like the name of the tournament and other conditions that you can set. But the bottom line is that you have a very easy graphical interface that allows you to manage the tournaments, to build them. And if you then build your game in a way that it can dynamically fetch this information, then you can easily build custom tournaments or even allow your players to build custom tournaments. So how much does it cost? In order to make Game On accessible to all developers, we thought a new pricing model. So basically, we define a cost per score. So basically, every time you post through the API a single score, that counts as a play. The first 35,000 monthly plays are free. After that, you pay only what you use, a third of a penny per play. The use of the rest of the API, so all the calls to fetch the leaderboards or to verify which tournaments are running, etc., all of these are free because we thought that it didn't really make sense to make you pay for just fetching. Information should be just there for you. So we had a lot of launch partners at GDC, which integrated Game On, and they're quite happy with it. But as I said before, we really built Game On for everyone to play with. So again, the API is accessible to everyone. It's free to get an API token. As I first said, the first 35,000 plays are free. So how do you get started? Just go on developer.amazon.com/gameon. You will find all the tech documentation, the reference for the API, access to the Game On console, and our dedicated online support. And if you are more on the implementation side, we also have a dedicated webinar from my colleague Peter Heinrich, which will guide you through the whole setup of the Game On API. So I think we kind of run out of time. So that's it for me. So thank you very much for listening. Here's all my contacts, Twitter and email, and again, the developer.amazon.com/gameon link. Please visit it.
You mentioned that Game On provides some sort of organic growth. Could you maybe elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah. So the thing is, as I said before, competition itself is a powerful boost for engagement. So the fact that you can add the competitive gameplay, in particular to games like, to casual games that were, by definition, for a lot of those were single player games, you throw in a competitive element, this helps retaining your customers. So it doesn't really, is not a marketing tool for you, it's more a retention engine, we can say, to keep the users that you're onboarding. Again, as I said before, is not a marketing tool. by all means is a competition engine, right? So it helps you retain the customers more than acquire others. But as you can imagine, if you plug Game On with your own marketing campaign or with the potential on-demand outreach, you can have, for example, a push notification coming out to your top players saying, you know, there is a new tournament. If you have the Super Sword, share this on Facebook, for example, and you can potentially invite other players that weren't aware of the tournament to come in through your social media engagement. But that's not something that Game On provides you per se. Game On provides you the competitive platform itself.
One question regarding so if I understood correctly, you can win physical prizes, and it's completely fulfilled and shipped by you guys. I assume the game developer pays for these products, and at what price point?
That is correct. That's at the standard price point for the product. But again, right now, as I said before, this is a white glove experience. So we are rolling this out with some selected partners. But yeah, the idea is that the prizes should be funded by the developer or someone that on behalf of the developer.
Mario, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys.